edition of This Week in Pop Culture. I'm your host, what you say, your co-host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and of course, none other than Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going
What's
on,
going
sir?
on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm using the app on YouTube, so you're not going to see any of my fancy updates this week. Unfortunately, I'd like to have my general pizzazz, but unfortunately today we're just going to be regularly on YouTube because we're doing a remote
Hey,
show, ladies and gentlemen. Remote, remote,
we
remote.
are, we are. We're trying to switch it up a little bit. Um, and on top of that too, we're trying to make it a point of. I know a lot of times if either one of us are away, um, we end up skipping that week's show. But I want to try to make an effort to try to do more shows even when we are away. And I am, as you can see from the title, here at TerraCon 2024, which is a horror niche convention located in Marlborough, Massachusetts, West Marlborough, Massachusetts to be exact. And am here on programming duties, on moderating duties, if you will. So, if you're following along with social media, you'll be able to check out, a lot of the goings on. I'm going to see if I can give you guys a peek of a little bit of the floor. But that is not the purpose of today's show, at least not the beginning of it, because we're going to be talking about some of the stories that happened over the past week. So, with that out of the way, Spillman, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
All right. So, the first story that I wanted to get into that happened this week was the retirement of Derrick Rose. Of course, if you know basketball, you're an NBA fan. There's so much to say about Derrick Rose. The what if story of Derrick Rose had he not had the injuries that he had and the career that he could have had. Grant Hill's another one that comes to mind when we're talking about someone like Derrick Rose. But let me just go down the accolades, if you will, of his resume. Now that he's announced his retirement this week, he is a All NBA player. He earned the All NBA recognition, earned All Rookie Team, earned Most Valuable Player. He also earned Rookie of the Year and is a three-time. You and I both know what Derrick Rose was when he first came into the league and a problem that he was when he first came into the league. Unfortunate matter of how they've been waived. So, what are your thoughts?
I think Derrick Rose is one of those cases of which would you rather have? Would you rather have a career that has the highs with no of the things that we talk about, like a championship? He never got a chip. He didn't really have the longevity that most people expected him to have when he came into the league. He came in as a firecracker, the youngest MVP of all time. But you can argue that he may not make the Hall of Fame because he really only had 3 good seasons on a 16-year career, which is a pretty long career. I think 16 years. I would like to make millions of dollars for 16 years. That would be great. But
But I was gonna say here's the crazy thing, and let me know your thoughts on this. Just as you said, he had an amazing 3 years. The top half of his career. Say that he decided that he wanted to retire after the first major injury that he had. Do you feel like the conversation would have been different of him potentially being a Hall of Famer? So that in the event that we didn't have those latter years that weren't as successful as the top half of his career, if it was a
that's a good
smaller sample
question.
size.
I feel like no, because the sample size would still be the same. Like, just because he played 12, 13 years as a role player doesn't mean you're a Hall of Famer. Like, sure, you can have a good run. Gilbert Arenas is very similar to Derrick Rose. Gilbert Arenas probably has a similar if you look at their stats, probably three All Stars, a couple of All Rookie teams, something like that. One All NBA maybe. So those are guys who were good for a couple of years. Once that athletic peak dipped down, they just became a middling NBA player. Obviously, Derrick Rose has more than just those 3 years of highlights. Like he had a couple of playoff games that he showed up in that were really special. Um, People argue he stole that MVP from LeBron. I don't agree with that. I think that he earned that MVP that year. I don't think that LeBron did as much with as little as Derrick Rose did the year that he won the MVP. So to me, it's bittersweet to see him leave, but he's definitely a polarizing player. You can say Derrick Rose is probably, one of the greater one and dones in history. Derrick Rose obviously was a one and done from Memphis and really raised that level to more people. But what can you say? He played the game in a good way. Obviously, the way that point guard play is played now, his game didn't really translate even after the injuries. It was more of a 3-point shooting position, and he's not really the best 3-point shooter. But it's just good to see that he had a good career. I would have liked to see him win a championship, but he didn't join the Lakers, so he would never won a championship if he didn't put on that purple and gold. So I don't know. How do you feel about his career? Do you feel that he should be in the Hall of Fame?
Um, Going back to what I was mentioning before about the smaller sample size, I feel like there would have been a better argument for him to make the Hall of Fame if you were able to use that narrative of he was already on that trajectory and injury got in the way of that continued trajectory, because prior to that he was uh all typically always in the conversation of being an MVP each year. So I feel like those latter years, even though I feel like that unfortunately messed up his narrative or his argument for being fame. So don't realize how good he was when he first came into the league and how like ridiculously, freakishly athletic he was.
Freakishly
In
athletic.
some of the plays, like if you go back and look at like his high school plays, his college plays, back in those Memphis days, those Calipari days, and you know, also thinking of those, just like you said, those first initial years, freakish athlete, incredible, could have been an incredible player. Again, one of those amazing like what if stories. What if he didn't get injured? What if he was able to maintain, the level of consistency? And I say this because, whether you want to feel this way or not, Westbrook has been, you know, consistently
Westbrook definitely had the
at
career we thought Derrick Rose was going to have for sure.
right, right. He's been consistently, you know, athletic enough where you're like, dang, he's in year, what? I mean, it,
15 or 16
how
too.
many years at this point? I mean, it's been a
Yeah.
minute, but I'm just saying, like, what he's still capable of doing, even at this stage of his career, is still mind-boggling and amazing to see. And that is the type of athleticism that I feel many of us believe that Derrick Rose would have, with his career, that it would have been, a long-lasting one. But those are the breaks sometimes. But switching gears, I want to get into and talking about the teaser trailer for the Thunderbolts. If you're not familiar, and first, before I get into that, I want to say, what's up to those that are watching. Let us know, if you guys are at Terracon this weekend, or if you're planning on coming down this weekend. Let us know. Give me 1 second. But yeah, let us know. But Spillman, we had this teaser of Marvel's The Thunderbolts. A lot of people are arguing, that is basically Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. We have a lot of quote unquote villains from other projects, whether they've been Disney Plus shows or from films, making a return and joining this, ragtag, dysfunctional team. What are your thoughts on what we saw?
Well, it looks like a fun movie. They do have a lot of the not throwaway, but villains that or marginalized characters who don't really have properties. I understand the connection with Suicide Squad. I don't know which one came out first, as far as publication goes, the Thunderbolts or the Suicide Squad. I can remember the Thunderbolts as far back as like the early 90s. It may be earlier for the Suicide Squad. But I do think that obviously, you know, uh, Julia Louis Dreyfus playing the same role essentially as the Amanda Waller lady. Who's that? I can't think of her name. Not Octavia Butler. What's her name? Huh?
Are you trying to say Nick Fury? Kind of
No,
that same type
no,
of
no,
role. Oh,
no.
okay.
She
I
plays
thought you were saying
the
role like
woman
Nick
that
Fury.
plays the woman from How to Get Away with Murder. I can't think of her name on the top of my head. Um, but she
You saying who
plays
plays?
Amanda Waller and Julia
Oh,
Louis
oh,
Dreyfus.
oh, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I know who you're talking. I don't know why I'm brain
Yeah, that's
farting
fine.
right now,
But
but
yeah,
yes,
they
yes.
obviously got her in that role. They've got the guy playing the Red Dynamo. That's a cool thing. They're revamping.
Davis. Talking about Davis.
Yeah, Davis. But I think it's an interesting movie. It looks like they've got good graphics and action sequences. Like you know, I'm a kid of the early '80s, late '80s to the '90s. So I remember the stretch limousine era. It used to be that rich people didn't drive fancy cars. They used to be driven. They used to be driven in a limousine, and in the back of the limousine, they're doing what they want to. So you know that kind of callback to them driving an old busted stretch limousine running from Humvees is pretty cool. I think that would be a good action sequence. Um, Interested to see where that goes. But all in all, the Thunderbolts is a cool property. I was hoping to see a little bit more Baron Zemo because he's the most famous character on Thunderbolts. Sad to see that he didn't come in because that the guy that plays Baron Zemo, I like him as an actor. He seems very scheme heavy, and that's very cool. And I think that would separate the two movies in that Baron Zemo is kind of a puppet master, and the Suicide Squad doesn't really have puppet masters. It's kind of like a star of the week kind of a movie where they throw in different characters to do different jobs. I'd like to see where they go with that. But I'm interested to see what they do with it. It does come out in May, which is my birthday month, and Brandon may have a month that's April, that's okay, but May is the best month of the year to have a birthday. So I'm interested in that. I'm happy to see Marvel getting back to putting out good movies on my birthday. So I hope they don't let me down because it's the unofficial start to summer. That first week of May when they start getting the big blockbuster movies back out, people start going back outside. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. How do you feel about the trailer?
So a couple of things. As I said, a lot of people have been designating this as Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad, and while that may be, I just hope that there is, just as you said, some distinguishing element that makes this film unique. Because I feel Marvel, out of well, I'm not even just going to say Marvel. I'll just say a lot of our superhero, just that genre in and of itself. One thing that kind of causes me to be a little cynical and have an eye roll, if you will, when it comes to those types of films is that when people start to like certain villains, there's a temptation to make them an anti-hero or to make them someone who's likable and fun. And I feel like a lot of times one thing that makes a villain is that they are a villain. And one of the things that makes them unique is that they are a villain. So don't try to what's the um take away the edge of a certain character who's supposed to be villainous just for the sake of turning them into a hero or trying to make them have like redeemable qualities. So, and I mean,
I
I
like to
understand
call
that
this
there
the
is.
Venomization of things, where Venom started out as a bad guy. He was eating people's souls. And then all of a sudden he was solving crimes. Why is he solving
Or not, or
crimes?
I would say not even Venom, even per se. Like if we're even talking about like Loki, give me another example. Like
That's a great
allow
example.
Loki to be evil. Like Hiddleston does a terrific job with that character, but he does such a terrific job with that character that people want him to be a good guy and say, oh well, he's redeemable, or he's turned over another a new leaf, but sometimes it's cool just for a villain just to be a villain, and we don't need to make all of our villains into anti-heroes or heroes. A lot of that element that I see in a lot of at the while I understand the need to make characters three-dimensional, and I'm all about that, you can still allow your character to be a villain without and have them be three-dimensional without having to transform them into a hero. So I'll be interested to see how they go about doing, those that particular film and how that's going to come about. But I will say that I am cautiously optimistic. I'm not super excited about it, and there is if there's anything to go by based on what they have with the asterisks. I don't know if you are aware of the story behind the asterisks. That there is a reason why we have an asterisk on that title, and I will say this to give you a hint, so that way I'm not spoiling it. And I'm sure a lot of people will put two and two together. There's a reason why this movie comes out in May, and there's a
Well,
uh,
yeah, I mean, they started out as a Great
that is
Lakes
not
team,
accidental.
but we could talk about it. But yeah, we'll see. I'm interested in it, but again, the Marvel verse, I feel like they've told the stories. I feel like they've run out of the stories. Like they've run out of stories. It's only so many things you can mine because there's only so many great stories to be told. It's been 70 years, but there's only so many great stories. There's only so many great Spider-Man stories. Before you start getting to stuff like the Clone Saga, where you're confused. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. May is a good month for movies. Arguably the best month of the year for movies. That's what I think. But I'm biased because May is a good month. But we'll see. I'd like to see what they
We'll
do with
definitely
it.
see. All right,
We will see.
so switching gears again, wanted to acknowledge the passing of a legendary icon in the world of entertainment, actress Maggie Smith. Was announced this past week by her sons, Chris Larkin as well as Toby Stevens, that she passed peacefully in the hospital early in the morning of September 27th. So this is fresh, just as of yesterday. Passed away at the age of 89. Course, if we're talking about multi generational in terms of films that she is recognized for, I know for folks that are in my mom's era, it may be other different projects and films. I know for me, it was the Sister Act movies, it was Hook, it was the Harry Potter films. For you, filming, what were those films that
I would
she
agree with
made
those
a stamp
same
on you?
films. Maggie Smith has been, obviously she's a elderly British woman figure in a lot of film. I like to see her in things. Unfortunately, she passed, but she left a great body of work. She's got the toe. No, not an EGOT, almost an EGOT, but she's got a toe. She's got the Tony, the Oscar, and the Emmys. Wasn't really a singer, so she missed out on the Grammy. I feel like for the EGOT, the Grammy's the easiest one to get because you could do like a spoken word album or something silly like that. But you know, as if Grammys are easy to get. That let's speak for real, ladies and gentlemen. But Dame Maggie was a great actress. I liked her, especially in the Hogwarts movies. She really gave life to those movies. Um, I just sad to see her pass, but a great career, well lived life from what I understand about her. Never heard any controversies about her doing anything untoward, so that's always good. She's a great actress. Made her money and got out of there. I have nothing bad to say about Maggie. Obviously, great talent. I think she stands out in Sister Act to me. I'm obviously the Harry Potter movies are big too, but Sister Act, she stands out because she's the counterbalance. She's the straight man's to Whoopi's comedic act in that movie. So it was very good to see her in those movies. So just sad to see as we get some. Oh yeah, Jigsaw. Yeah, that was pretty scary. Bum bum bum. They're gonna eat you up, Brandon. Don't let them eat you. Yeah, as we get some more scary.
So just giving you guys a peek in some of the cosplay, but I absolutely agree with you, and I'm glad you brought up the point about how she was perceived by her peers because a lot of times we talk about a lot of actors who are great and had great careers, right? But sometimes even in the face of the impressive careers that they've had, that despite a lot of the great projects that they were a part of and bringing their talents to it, they don't always have the best reputation when it comes to working with their peers. Sometimes even in the face of the talent that they have, that they are some in some cases difficult to work with, and that doesn't seem to be the case with with Maggie. So um, doesn't matter what project, as you said, she's a part of. She's always put her sample in it. Doesn't matter how small of a role is. Her presence is typically all regardless. So again, it's a shame to have her to know that she's passed away. But again, Titan, massive figure in the world of acting. Whether we're talking about on the stage, whether we're talking about on the small screen, on the big screen, across numerous, across numerous genres. That's one other thing that we could talk about. It's just that idea that her versatility across many genres. If we're talking about Harry Potter, we're talking about fantasy. Yeah, Hook, we're talking about fantasy. We're talking about Sister Act, being able to handle comedy, to be able to work across from Whoopi Goldberg and kind of act as her straight, her straight guy, to the kind of the zany antics that Whoopi brought to that character. It doesn't work without having those competing elements when you have a comedic duo. So again, shame to have her pass away, but for sure will not be forgotten in terms of what she's brought in terms of her body of work. Any last things before we get into our main topic today?
I will say that the great Michael Caine said that she was a scene stealer, and he said that when she won the Oscar, that she was that was grand theft larceny. She definitely stole the scene. So great talent again. That's pretty much it. Uh-oh, that guy's about as tall as I am, ladies and gentlemen. Look,
But
Brandon's mad, ladies and gentlemen. He's like, whatever, Spiller, you're not that tall. Boo.
But all right, let's hop into our main topics. The two things that we're going to talk about, of course, is what we have in the title. We'll say that for last. But the other thing that I wanted to, hop into was Batman this past week. Batman receiving his star on the Walk of Fame. And I have Ruben on here saying, "Hey man, this is a live show." Yes, sir, this is a live show, and yes, I am here on the floor. Welcome on board. But yes, Spillman, what are your thoughts on that story this week of Batman receiving, a star on the Walk of Fame, a character receiving a star on the Walk of Fame?
I think that's pretty crazy. Obviously, Batman is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. As you pass by some comic books, there wouldn't be as many
Right.
comic books out without the Batman. There wouldn't be characters like Punisher if there was no Batman. There would be no characters like Batman himself. Batman is great. Obviously, shout outs to Bob Kane and Bill Finger, the creators of Batman. They created him some nearly 90 years ago now. But for him to continue to be such a big role, Batman, a great character. It's kind of interesting that he got a star on the Walk of Fame. Obviously, you know, that seems kind of crazy, but he makes people's careers. I don't feel like Michael Keaton would be as big an actor as he was if he wasn't Batman. I don't feel like Christian Bale would have been where he is without playing Batman. So, it runs the gamut of generations. Obviously, Adam West famously was Batman in the 60s and, carried that mantle to millions and millions of dollars in success. Oh, man, those are some creepy booths, ladies and gentlemen. Look at those booths. Crazy. But oh yeah, oh yeah, good job, Brandon. Okay, so I'm interested in seeing it. I wonder what took Warner Brothers so long to put him on the Walk of Fame. I don't know if there's any other fictional characters on the a star on the Walk of Fame. Do you know any other characters? I imagine maybe Superman or Mickey Mouse may have one.
Um, I believe there are a couple. I'm brain farting on which one on the other instances that there may have been. You can let us know in the comments. But I guess the reason why I wanted to really make it a point of this is, I've talked about it time and time again of how much of an impact Batman has, had on me, as a fan of comics, as a fan of, genre fair, whether we're even talking about, noir. There's a lot of, noir elements when we're talking about Batman and iterations that we've had of Batman. Of course, with it, as I mentioned many times on the show, of it being my first film that I saw. So, whether I like to believe it or not, that character has had a huge impact on, what I do and my fandoms, if you will. Um, a lot of it has come and stemmed from that. When I think back on, a lot of those uh, inspirations and the impact of things that have happened, in my childhood that have, sparked that interest in comics and in fantasy and in, all of those different, genres. So, but any last thoughts before we hop into a lot of the hop into our other part of our main story that I've been teasing this entire time?
Do you what is your favorite iteration of Batman? Personally, I think the best Batman to me was the um Tim Burton Batman the animated series era. I feel like that was like
Oh, okay, so we're
obviously
not talking about comics. We're talking about film and TV.
sure, comics or film and TV. If you more feel like the comics were better, that's up to you.
Well, I guess for me, since you brought up film and TV, um, I'll say that again. I'm biased. The '89 Batman, stands out for me. Uh, the closest that I feel we ever to getting that same feeling that I got watching that movie is the animated series. Um, I mean, let me see the Schumacher Batman films. They have their place, and for some films, I don't care for them that much. But at the end of the day, it's still a part of the start film. We have with that character. Um, Personally, I prefer the serious take on that character more so than the character. So, but as you saw, I what you saw in the excuse me, give me one
All right, ladies and
saw
gentlemen.
in the
Okay.
main title. I am here at TerraCon 2024. As I mentioned before, it is a niche con in West Marlboro, Massachusetts, horror con, and many of the trappings that you would have at any other convention, whether it's with the programming, whether it's with the cosplay that you see, with the guests that are on tap, is very much in line with that genre. So, Spillman, at some point I need to get you down here.
I was going to
Maybe
say, has the fall foliage hit the New England yet? Is it as beautiful as I imagined when you were flying in there to New England, making it a very horror-tastic place? Because I don't know why, but the fall brings out the spirits. How did it look as far as like the weather and stuff up there?
the weather is decent. It's a little wet. It's slightly gray, at least for the first day. I mean, it's sunny today. It's cleared up a little bit today, but otherwise, I want to say yesterday was pretty. It was no, it was sunny yesterday. I guess it got kind of gray as we got into the afternoon and the evening, and this early morning, it was a little gray, but it's starting to clear up.
Okay. Are you moderating anything?
But if I can get you down here, and this will be a first. People that know me know that I will cosplay.
Ladies and
Perhaps I
gentlemen,
will
he's not going to
cosplay.
cosplay. He's not going to cosplay, ladies and gentlemen. This is a bribe. He's not going to tell us. It's like that bad dad that always tells you he's going to pick you up, and then you're sitting there ready for him to go, and he's not there. I don't believe him, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going to take us to any kind of
I'll do it.
cosplay.
I'll do it.
I
I'll
don't
do it.
believe him, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see. We will see.
I'll do it. Well, I tell you what, I will allow you to pick the horror character for the cosplay. How about that?
We can
I
do
will
that.
allow you to pick the horror character for the cosplay. Any horror monster, you can pick the horror monster for the cosplay. So we're talking.
You know,
Let me
I
see.
would
We're
pick
talking
Gizmo.
Jason,
You
Chucky,
definitely would have. No, you'd have to be Gizmo, sir. You'd have to be Gizmo if I went to this horror con.
Gizmo. Okay, all right, I can do Gizmo.
That would be too funny, ladies and gentlemen. That'd be
That
too
would be
funny.
hilarious. That would be
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious if I
Yeah,
did
no, he would
Gizmo.
not be happy being Gizmo. I don't think he would be. He'd be like, man, forget you, Spillman. You're not a good
Yeah,
guy
I have to
making
do.
me dress up
I
like
have to do
Gizmo.
the. It's like I have to do the bright light, bright light, bright
Yeah,
light.
yeah. My wife. That's funny. But,
But yeah, no, that's a
I
good
do want
one.
to check it out. I love the Boston area. New England is a good place to be. I'd like to check it out. We'll see. I think this coming year we could do some more shows like this. I think I need to get on it with the travel, definitely. So we'll do that. We could do some cons and stuff. So we'll see.
All right. Well,
But
that
I,
will
I
do it.
do before
No,
we
go ahead.
wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to know
Yes.
Brandon's thoughts. They traded
Yes. Oh
Carl
my
Anthony
gosh. Yes. I'm
Towns,
glad you brought that
and
up.
he
Thank you
almost
for reminding me.
forgot. But I'm not going to let him get away from this, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
They
no, no, no.
traded
I do
Carl
want to
Anthony
comment on.
Towns for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo to the Knicks. I think that this is the move that the Knicks actually needed to make. A lot of people in the Knicks community are poo-pooing this, saying that they wanted to keep Julius as if Julius was going to help them against the Celtics or the Bucks or any of those
Or the
teams
Bucks.
that they're going to that they're going to face, or even the Heat. They can't beat the Heat with Julius. All them people look at Julius as a backup. So, how do you feel about that trade? Do you think it's a good trade for the Knicks, or how do you feel?
I think it's an outstanding trade for the Knicks for all the reasons that you brought up. You need another person there on the front court to be able to battle against, some of the front courts that are going to be on the other Eastern team, Eastern Conference teams. If we're talking about Embiid, if we're talking about the Greek Freak, if there's so many folks that we have, in those contenders or potential contenders that you need someone in the front court and you need someone who's reliably healthy because memory serves, Randall as solid, not to say that he's a bum, he's been consistently, good with their team, not great, but good with their team. But also, he has a habit of getting injured. So I think this is a plus for for the Knicks, but I don't think that the Wolves are done. I think that they got rid of Cat for monetary reasons, and that they're trying to send a package deal of what they received elsewhere to trade for another player. I don't think that they're done yet. I don't know how you feel about that, but them just getting rid of Cat like that, and then for who they traded him for, that's not going to take them over the hump. That seems like a temporary band-aid until they are able to package who they just got, so that way they can trade for a player on another team and be a contender.
I agree, but I think that that's not enough players. Maybe they'll have to include Rudy. I personally wouldn't move on from Rudy because obviously Rudy is a great defender. He was the guy that beat Jokic last year, and I feel like the reason why they traded Cat is because Cat didn't show up in the Western Conference Finals last year against the Mavericks. The Mavericks, the Mavericks really showed that he was the emperor with no clothes on and could not score when they needed him to. He's so lucky that everybody was blaming it on Anthony Edwards, saying Anthony Edwards didn't show up. When Cat was averaging like 16 points or something terrible, maybe even less than 16 points in those playoffs against players, forwards for the Mavs that no one's ever heard of. You can't tell me today who plays for the Mavs that are forwards. You can tell me Kyrie and Luca, but that's the only guys they got outside of that. Maybe Powell, but Powell's just a creative player kind of guy. We don't know Powell could be walking in there. You wouldn't know it was Dwight Powell. So, you know, I feel like they may move on with Julius and make another package with Julius and Rudy, but I don't feel like they're going to move on from Rudy. They spent too much money to get Rudy and too much capital to just get rid of him that way. I feel like they needed to get rid of Cat. Cat was not producing the way they needed him to. He was shirking the responsibility. So I don't know. I think that the Wolves might stick with him. I think that Randall fits better with Rudy, where he's a high-low kind of guy and Rudy's a low-high kind of guy, and they like kind of don't operate in the same spaces that he and Cat did. So we'll see. Um, they needed somebody to push the offensive pace, and Julius can do that much better than Cat could. Julius can catch the ball off the rim and move. Oh, let's see. Who's this? Who's this, ladies and gentlemen? Very
Trick or
cool.
treat, trick or
Yeah, there
treat.
you
Yeah.
go. There you go. But I'm just interested to see what it is. Cat is a good player, but he needs to prove himself. And being back home, that's when you really prove yourself when you're back home. So we'll see.
I hear you. I hear you. like I said, only time will tell what actually happens. But mark my words, they're not done with their trading. I feel like in a very near future, very soon, we're going to hear that the Wolves are actually trading that package that they just received in order to get someone else,
I can see that happening.
in order to relieve some. I would say that would
Cap
be the main
pressure.
thing, just in order to get somebody else, honestly.
I
Because
we'll see.
who they got for Cat is not going to be enough to take them over the hump to go for a title. It just seemed like maybe they had paid them too much money and they were trying to get rid of it, along with the package that they would be able to trade to get someone else. But that's going to do it for this edition of This Week in Pop Culture. Again, I'm going to pass it over to for hopping on and talking each week. Spillman, can you tell folks where they can find you?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You can find me on Truly Spill on Instagram. You can check me out there. I'll do some updates and maybe we can talk about Cat a little bit more. I have friends who are saying that they should have kept Cat and traded Rudy, and that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't understand how you could think they should keep Cat and trade Rudy. Back to you, Brandon.
All right, cool. So again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, as well as Brandon Choi _ ENT on Instagram. That being said, hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. If you guys are here at Terracon, hopefully I'll see you guys at some point this weekend. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week. We will be back in the studio. Or I should say, I will be back in the studio next week to talk about, again, the goings on in pop culture on another edition of This Week. Brandon signing off. Spillman signing off. Peace.